Hello everyone, welcome back to my Astromer channel. So today we will discuss about Kurt Cobain. We will do both the astrology and human design analysis. So when we look into his astrology chart, we can see that he has a cluster of Pisces planets in his 6th and 7th house cusps. So he has got his Sun in 6th house Pisces, and he has got Mercury in his 6th house in Pisces. It's a cluster of six Pisces planets here. And then we have also, let me see, his vertex, Venus, Saturn. Okay, so all these planets, did I miss something? His Chiron, everything. So these cluster of planets are all in Pisces. Okay, and when you take the opposite side, you can see his ascendant is in Virgo. Okay, which is at 23 degrees, and he has both Uranus, which is the generational planet or the outer planets, which has more influence to someone else's chart. He has got both Pluto and Uranus, and Pluto is actually retrograde in his natal chart. We need to come back to this point. Okay, so both are in Virgo and both are in 12th house. So this is very important here when we look into his chart. So it's basically a lot of water planets. So there's very much an imbalance in the elements. Okay, so his chart is majorly dominated by water planets, and the water planets, especially the Pisces, in his earth house and the relationship house or the air house. Okay, so this is something to keep in mind. Okay, and when we look into his Moon and Jupiter, both are also in his water houses of Cancer. So he got Moon and Jupiter in his 10th house. Well, this is again water house planets, right? And then we go back to his Mars. Mars is in Scorpio, again a water planet, in his 2nd house, and also his south node. This is very important in his chart. South node is in Scorpio. This is something very important to note. So the planet ruling Scorpio, Pluto, is in 12th house. This brings a lot of karmic or past life karma into this mix as well. And now you can see that it is basically dominated by lots of water planets. And another important thing, his Neptune is also in Scorpio. And when we look into his chart or the aspects, we can see that he has got a lot of aspects with Neptune as well. And his Sun Pisces squaring his Neptune. Okay, because of the degree aspect when we look into his chart. So it's in, his Sun is in 1 degree of Pisces, and his Neptune is basically in 24 degree of Scorpio. So there's a little bit of square between these planets because one is in the beginning and the other one is ending. Okay, so yeah, so one thing when we see an opposition, there's an opposition between his generational planets and his inner planets as well as opposite. Okay, so when we look into this situation, what we have to see is he's got water planets in his 6th house and earth planets or earth signs. So I'm sorry, it's water sign planets, right? All these Pisces sign and the earth sign planets, which is here the Pluto and Uranus in Virgo in his 12th house. So what does the 6th house mean? Sixth house means routines. Okay, it's basically routines, And the 12th house means solitude, escapism, or connecting with the oneness, universe, the collective unconscious, right? So this is all associated with the 12th house. So something that we need to know about this chart is that Kurt required a lot of alone time, because his psychic boundaries were too open. Okay, so his psychic boundaries were too open, and he could actually absorb lot of lots and lots of emotional undercurrents, and negativity when he is around other people or when he is out in the public. So he feels a lot, and basically he doesn't have a wall or boundary to actually uh, keep that in check. Like, he gets lost in other people, and he would have a difficult time to differentiate between what is his emotions or his feelings and what is the related to other people's feelings. So whenever these situation arises, this alone time or solitude is very important. Is very important. And also, since he has got water sign, right, water sign in his sixth house, he should need flexible routine to keep himself sane. So this is very important for his overall well-being. Okay, so this flexible routine, he cannot work in a very structured environment, or structured strict routine is not something that could work for him because of the water influence in his sixth house or the earth house. So the routines should have been made flexible, so which means he's not right person for to do those kind of office or corporate, or that strict kind of scheduled jobs. He needs a lot of humanness in what he does. So which comes to that poetry, music, everything, it's very well connected to his well-being. Okay, so then you and then when we look at his chart, we can see that the Pluto and Uranus, which are generational planets and outer planets, so that those planets have more influence on his sixth house. So these Pluto and Uranus in the 12th house, it's opposing the sixth house planets in Pisces, right? So which means that there's a need to balance both these energies. And so he had to balance it with solitude plus. So he needs to have lots of alone time, is very must for his well-being, and also have some flexible routines that he could follow every day. So this could be health routines, whatever it is. So if something gets disrupted here, that could actually affect his well-being. And he have always talked about his stomach problems, right? So what I have always seen in different charts is that whenever you have a water planet in your earth houses, or sixth house mainly, because this is also related to your digestive health. Okay, so whenever you have those planets, it's very important that you actually feel your body when you're around people. Okay, so if you're around the wrong environment, if you're around the wrong environment, this could actually affect your stomach, or it could come up as anxiety or gut health issues or digestive issues. If you could, you as a psychic sponge, because of all those water elements in your chart, in his chart, he is a psychic sponge. He cannot, and this is going to affect his digestive system a lot. And when I talk about digestive system, we need to talk about the pHs in human design chart as well. Okay, so let's first move into that. So when I looked into his body graph, okay, so what I noted was he has got four centers defined. Okay, so his throat is defined, his sacral is defined by the channel 3420. Okay, and then his solar plexus is defined. He has got two channels from the solar plexus. One is the channel of meeting, or 59.6, and another channel from the channel of emoting, or 39.55, from the root center. So these are the four centers that he has got defined. He has got completely open will center, and which could show up as unworthy, a sense of unworthiness, and also that he had to prove something, right? And most of the time he doesn't have the willpower to make big things happen. So these are the so something to note here is he's a very much of an emotional being. Like, he has two channels from the solar plexus center, right? So when he's down the wave, and when he had to face the public for all those live shows, and he was basically picking up, all those shadow energies due to his 12th house Pluto and Uranus. Both Pluto and Uranus, they are hidden genius when it's operating in 12th house. His power is very hidden in the 12th house realm, or in the subconscious mind. And he was basically picking up everything from the audience. And that's why you can see sometimes he used to scream at the audience. Some days he used to be very much in a defensive position, or um, and this could relate to his low wave situation. Probably should be accounting to the 39.55, because this is not much of that outward. 59.6 is not too much of an outward emoting wave, but this one could have been responsible when you're at the lowest, or when you're going to be in the low wave scenario. It's going to be really affecting your well-being, and also you could be provocating the people around you when you're really in that low wave. So this was something to note. So it was almost like he had to perform, and he didn't have the energy for anything. And something else to note, so maybe his music career would have been a better option if he would have performed, in a studio or something, and released the album, instead of having to perform in public. So if if he and his team could have created their own studio and um, and create those music videos and you know and sell those digitally, that would have been a much better option for a person like Kurt Cobain, because that could have helped him bring out his musical gifts. Or also his chart shows lots of healing energy as well, so this could have helped him without having to pick up all those sensitivities from around. So that would have been a better option for him. And also and one thing to note, he actually, to numb sense all those psychic sensitivities that he used to feel, he did turn into drugs. The most important thing to note is that if you have a lot of Neptune aspects to your chart, if you have lots of water planets in your chart, okay, and if you don't have any earth to ground yourself, earth planets to ground yourself, it's very important for you not to actually get into abuse, because what it does is it completely opens your psychic boundaries much more. Okay, psychic boundaries are being opened much more. And even though these substances help you numb those sensitivities, but it's never going to be good in the long term. So this is something very important. This, if he would have changed, if he would have instead put more effort into having a flexible routine every day, putting more effort into cooking and wellness aspects, so this could have helped him a lot, rather than once you are in this substance, or once you start trying these drugs, you're completely addicted to that. It's very difficult for somebody to get out of it unless you have very much of a strong earth placement or willpower. You can see here his willpower was completely open, which shows no willpower at all inherently in his nature. So it's very difficult to for someone to come out of this thing or drug abuse. So that is one thing to note here. And then something else to note is that um, yeah, so let's come into the human design element. Yeah, something else to note is that his he committed suicide at the age of 27, I guess. It was the beginning of his Saturn return, because it was back in 1994, right? Yes. So Saturn, his natal Saturn was in Pisces. Okay. His natal Saturn was in Pisces, and in 1994, when he committed the suicide, he was having a Saturn. He was having a Saturn return in Pisces. So especially we can see that he's a night chart person. Okay, he's a night chart person, so the Saturn return will always be extra difficult for a night chart person. So this return was actually very difficult to deal with. So you're going to deal with a lot of emotional boundaries, which he could have been a major theme in his life, those emotional boundaries and where he stands, and all those things that is associated with the Pisces. And also Something else to note is his south node is in Scorpio, and I guess it was during that time, and his north node is in Taurus, right? Yes. And it was during this time in 1994 when he had a nodal, if I'm correct, a nodal return, not a nodal, um, reverse nodal return for him at that time, because at that time a reverse nodal return is always very difficult for everyone, mostly because it was dealing with his Scorpio Taurus themes. So he was having a reverse nodal return at the same time as his Saturn in Pisces return as well. Okay, so these two themes were going hand in hand during that time. Okay, so at the time, so North Node becomes North Node transiting Scorpio, and South Node transiting Scorpio, uh, South Node transiting Taurus. Okay, so these themes becomes very important, and we have to. So, uh, so basically, at that time, he felt it very overwhelming to actually be sober, and also he was having to take lots of responsibilities, be it, you know, he had lots of ideas in his minds but couldn't, responsibilities were there because he had a child during that time, right? Having a child and all those responsibilities associated with that, having to be a good father, and having all those childhood, probably it's during these time, probably during, the Saturn return process and the reverse nodal return process, the childhood past traumas come to surface. So he was facing the same traumas during that period. So it could have felt like he was bearing the responsibilities of the world as well as the family on him, and yet he didn't have the strength to even get the simple things going. He was feeling too much, feeling everything. All he needed was some time alone. He was lost. Uh, but if he could have had some supportive friends, who could give him some time and, be with him, letting him know that it will be over after some time. Because there are times in our life where we feel like it's not worth living. Very difficult times, it's very difficult to let people know or make people understand what someone is going through. He would have been going through a lot of psychological and mentally traumatic experiences at that time. All those childhood trauma could have come up, and also since Pluto is in 12th house and the Uranus in 12th house, there is a possibility that those memories from previous lifetimes were also surfacing during those time. Okay, now when we come to his human design chart, something that I note which is very important is the variables or variable arrows in his human design chart. Okay, so what I noted was all four variables of his human design chart is pointing right. So he's a quad right, he's a quad right person, which in our case it's a very difficult variable to carry for a human being, because this is all, applicable for a rave, but which is going to have come into this world post 2027. But for us human beings, this is a very difficult configuration to have. So one important thing to note is that probably his parents would have thought he's, this is a completely passive and receptive person, and having to live in a strategic world. Just imagine how much trauma he was carrying, how much conditioning he was carrying, right? So so in order for this person to operate correctly, the first thing to note is his phs, or the dietary regimen, which points to the top left arrow. And according to his chart, let me check. His dietary regimen is, yes, it's a very difficult one. It's color 6, which is color 6. It's like either you eat in darkness or in light, that is before sunset or after sunset. It's compared to how we are being conditioned to eat, like we are conditioned to eat 3 meals a day starting from morning, breakfast. And he has several times mentioned how he felt difficulty in having breakfast, having to make himself eat his breakfast in the morning, and how he was having all those stomach issues after that. And you know what, this completely tells why he was feeling that way. So his digestive, or phs, is basis of his dietary regimen is the intensity of ultraviolet radiation in the environment when eating. And since it's pointing right, he should eat in darkness or dark hours, which is basically after sunset, or in a dark room. That's how where the uv radiation could never enter his his area of residence, or wherever he's having his food. So his body absorbs, okay, so his body absorbs better during sunset. So this means that he should be eating food, after the sun set and until the sunrise, which is the evening hours. So, and it is not recommended to have food in the morning until the dusk. So and it is also important that he doesn't go to bed feeling hungry, which means he should be fully fed, or he should eat or have or be full or have food before he is going to bed. And this is completely against how we are all conditioned to, in our society. It's always, as per the societal rules, we are supposed to end our eating habits or eat our dinner before, before 7 or before 6, and you have to have some hours left before you go to sleep, right? So this is completely against what we are being taught. So this is one major reason why his health was being affected. And also, being a completely right being, he's absorbing a lot from his environment. Okay, so let's see what his environment, but environment is only important after his Saturn return. So he was no longer there in after his Saturn return, right, as we all know. But if there was a way that he could understand that, he could, about his phs, he could have had a better chance of surviving. And also, when in most of the interviews we can see him having sweets, right? All those juices, your sweet juices and everything. And this could go to the channel 3955, which is associated with all sorts of, you know, food disorders or eating disorders. They love sweets to get that dopamine hit, and there could be a lot of food disorders or eating disorders associated with this channel. So this was something that I noted in his chart. He was, let me see if I have missed something. There's a lot more to go in depth, but I'm not going too much. But this could be helpful for someone who is having some sort of similar chart in their, mm, you know, birth chart analysis, uh, and to let them know that it's, you know, that person cannot operate the same way as others, but could at least bring some structure into their life so that they're not completely lost in those ethers or, this otherworldly realms. um, and Uranus is in 12th is actually a genius aspect. you know Genius ideas could come when they are alone, and this person should, if the right people would have found him, he's a walking library, or he has got more knowledge than he could even know about. Kurt Cobain, so he was a genius, but only the right people could draw that genius out of him. So yeah, he was he was a great genius born at the wrong time in the wrong environment of people. um, so this is all about Kurt Cobain, and uh, let me know in the comments if you found this video helpful, and if you wish to have someone else's chart being done as well. So yeah, thank you.